an all-new bonus round on Game Trailers with David Jaffe, Michael McWhirter, and Jeff Cannata. This month, we're tackling the always-on controversy, looking at our favorite games so far of 2013, our most anticipated, and we'll preview Xbox's big announcement, a new generation revealed, that's coming right here to GT on May 21st. It's all right now in the bonus round. Hey guys, welcome to an all-new bonus round right here on GameTrailers.com. I'm back at I Am 8-Bit here in Los Angeles with a great panel. We're starting with David Jaffe. We've missed you, David Jaffe. Of course, the creator of God of War,
missed
Twisted
you all
Metal.
So much. Yes, I'm glad to be back. I appreciate
Great to have you back. You're working on some new games you're not talking about yet,
That's
but
right.
always have something to say.
Yes.
So good to have you back. Michael McWhirter, who's a senior reporter at Polygon.com. Big news blog. Great to have you with us, Mike.
Yes, and I've missed you too, Jeff.
We have missed you, exactly, from the Game Trailers family, so welcome back.
Good to be back.
Finally, from newest, latest, best,
Yes.
of course, Totally Rad Show back in the day, and Weekend Confirmed, Jeff Cannata. Great to have you back with us as well,
Thanks.
Jeff. So guys, it's an exciting time in the gaming business because it's announced that Microsoft's going to be unveiling the new Xbox on May 21st. We've got E3 coming up, so we want to look at a lot of things that are happening in the business, but let's start with what's been the controversy the past few weeks, which is all about always on. There was this one guy on Twitter who was, I think, a former employee of Microsoft, Adam Orth, who got into a lot of trouble online because he was talking about, always on and how he didn't think it was a big deal. Let me just open with this, the general question. The idea of an always-on system, what's wrong with that, David?
Well, I don't know yet, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't. The biggest problem I have with that whole thing. First of all, I know Adam very well. Great friend of mine. Great designer.
What happened to him? Give us some scoop.
Well, there's no scoop. I mean, he basically, the funny thing was, I mean, I get why people would assume he was even talking about Xbox, but
Right.
you would have thought he had come out and said, I'm an official spokesman for Xbox. This is what I'm talking about. It's the next Xbox. He's like,
Right.
no, he was not, he never associated it. But okay, fair enough. I get that people would say, well, yeah, but it's, okay, so, but it was really annoying because it just got out of hand and all this stuff. But ultimately what it did do, though, obviously, was bring a lot of light to, what I can't get my head around is it a vocal minority or is it really reflective of the gamers out there that they just absolutely hate the concept of always on? But it did bring that up, and that, I think, opened up a really interesting can of worms and discussion points. But in terms of what happened, I think a really good guy, a really nice guy, just sort of, stepped on a landmine and just got a lot of and it's a different show, and I could talk for hours about it.
How's he doing, though? Is he all right?
Yeah, he's doing fine. I mean, obviously he's kind of stepped away from the internet. And look, I mean, we've all, look, you're talking to the guy who's made a lot of mistakes being online and said stupid things. And luckily I've been fortunate enough, that I've recovered better.
You keep coming back, then, Jeff.
Well, yeah, because I don't give a frankly, okay? You know what, fire me, I don't care, I mean, I do, and but it's just like, I don't know, I could talk forever about this.
The thing to me about this always-on controversy is you said, people don't really know what it means. And to me, I would assume any console in this day and age, you would probably assume that people are going to be connected to the internet in some form. The big question is, I think, what happens in that fail state where you lose your internet connection. I think what really, to me at least, what upsets people is the idea I'd be playing, Halo 4 single player, and then my internet goes down and somehow my box is bricked because my internet doesn't work. And I don't know if they're ever going to take it to that extreme, because that seems to me to not make a lot of sense. But are they going to assume that you're connected to the internet? Yes, why wouldn't you, right?
Well, that's the big distinction I think that is important to make. We can say always on, but does that mean expecting to be always on or requiring to be always on?
Right.
And I think a console that expects to be always on is a pretty exciting thing from a gamer's perspective, because it enables all these cool ways to be connected all the time. And what I think is a scary idea is this weird number of 3 minutes not connected and all of a sudden you can't do anything.
Right.
And I think that's ridiculous to think that a company would do that. So I think it's just a...
Well, and I don't know why
silly
they'd
thing to be
have
afraid
to
of.
do that, because you look at something like Steam on the PC, it's like it can authenticate your game. And some people said, oh, they're doing this to prevent piracy and used games. It's like, maybe the first time you play the game, it's got to authenticate, it's got to know that you're the user and things like that. But after that, yeah, I mean, why?
But if you look at, I think people are scared because they saw SimCity and they saw Diablo 3 and they saw these these botched launches for games that you cannot play even the single player portion of them without a constant internet connection. So that scares people, and I think justifiably so, but it also skews, I think, the reaction that you get to even the concept of having a console that's always connected.
No, you're totally right, because this came, a couple weeks after SimCity, and there were a lot of people that paid $60 for that game, went home, tried to play it, and it doesn't work. And all of us would be pissed if we bought a game and it's like we're limited from even getting into the single player campaign. Michael, do you think, is this something that, this is not going away though, right? This idea of, a game console being connected to the internet.
So, looking at the numbers from Microsoft, it's clear that not every Xbox 360 that's out there is connected to the internet. They say they have about 46 million Xbox Live accounts, and that's a much smaller number than the number of Xbox 360s that they've sold over the last 7 or 8 years. Right. So no, not everybody's going to be online, and I think that actually gets to the heart of why people took such issue with Adam Orth's statement.
Right.
Because there are people who don't necessarily have reliable internet connections. There are people who have Xbox 360s that are in their bedrooms or in their basements.
But
and
I'm
they're
sure
not
the people
connected.
complaining are probably the people that do have Xbox Live.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably, yes. They're complaining online, yes, through their constant internet connections.
So they clearly are on the forums.
Right.
But it's not, it's not just like.
It's like as soon as my mom gets off this phone, I'm dialing into AOL and I'm going to complain about this.
I think there's just this inherent knee-jerk reaction to DRM, and feeling like, oh, the man is watching me. And I think that I would guess a majority of the people that, as you said, are upset about it, have their console plugged into the internet all the time. And so they kind of are, in effect, always.
Okay, but that said, people who bought SimCity on day one, they expected to play their video game, and they couldn't do that for the first week. And if I bought an Xbox 360 or the next generation Xbox, and I take it home and turn it on, and I can't play it, that sucks.
No, and that's, as you know, like with the server load issues and stuff like that, exactly. You stay up all night and you go home and you can't, authenticate it and it doesn't work for a while. I mean, that, happened, I remember, with iPhone, where you're like waiting for the AT&T server to let you, activate your iPhone, and you couldn't do it.
Xbox Live still goes down sometimes on the weekends and the holidays.
Or just your ISP goes down.
Right.
And it would be one thing if it was these games, people kind of expect it with MMOs and games that are based in an online community, but you have games like SimCity and Diablo that are both come from a heritage of being single player experiences first. That scares people, and I think people look at something like a whole console where, sometimes, I want to be playing games that are connected, but other times I just want to, take it with me up to the cabin and plug it in and be able to play a few games.
You mean the chateau, which is where you take your secondary consoles to your chateau.
Indeed, yes.
But I because the idea of there was something online, somebody was talking about the military. And it's like there were a number of these like fringe cases, but it's like, okay, how many people who own Xboxes are in the military? Probably a meaningful percentage, but they're like, well, you can't play it out in the desert. Okay, it's like, what? That's a great point. And the military is important enough that, all console makers should make a military version. But it's just like, to start seeing the arguments people were making against it were like just grasping at anything, even though that is a good argument.
No, and I think that's the thing, is you really think about, like, what is the benefit of requiring online? And I think that's what a lot of people look at and say, like, well, it's nice that my friends connect with me and stuff like that, but if you don't have online, certainly there's some games that, you're not going to be able to play, but the bigger question, I think, is like, these single-player, story-driven campaign games that aren't connected to the internet, publishers are making fewer and fewer of those as well.
Right.
So what are you playing?
I think the benefit that you can get from things online is, one, you don't necessarily have to have a multiplayer mode tacked onto a game so that they can sell you an online pass, so that they can prevent a used sale. I think there may be a net benefit to single-player experiences because the developers don't have to make a multiplayer mode for those games.
All right, guys, hold that thought. We're going to be right back here on the bonus round.